Welcome back, Fan-tastic ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever Fan-tastic episode in this Pokemon TCG Online series. In Fan-tastic episodes, I take a look at decklists that were sent to me by other PTCGO players who watch my channel, and the first decklist that was sent to me for this first episode was sent by Davidov. Davidov is a YouTuber. You will no doubt see him in the comments, but I'll also put a link to his channel in the description so you can check out his channel, see what he puts up there on his channel. And we are going to take a look at the deck that he sent me, which is a Politoed Poliwrath deck. Politoed is a stage 2 water type Pokemon with 130 HP and the King's Song ability. Ignore all colorless energy in the attack cost of each of your Poliwag, Poliwhirl and Poliwrath attacks. And you guessed it right, this is going to be a very special deck because we are going to be playing zero energies, no energies in this deck whatsoever. We are going to rely on the Politoed entirely to get our attacks off, which means the Politoed itself will never be able to attack with a Hyper Voice because it requires a water energy and it does not benefit from the King's Song ability anyways. So let's take a look at our Poliwags, at our Poliwhirls and at our Poliwraths here. We have Poliwag, the basic Pokemon with 60 HP, and the Spiral Current attack hits for 20 for 3 colorless. But as we know, if we have Politoed in play, that is actually for 0 colorless, so we can use this attack for free. We do 20 damage and then your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. That Pokemon cannot retreat during your opponent's next turn. This seems like a pretty weak attack because of the low damage output, but it can actually be very good in some situations where you need to stall. You can hit for the Spiral Current, confuse your opponent, and he cannot retreat into another Pokemon to get rid of that confusion, unless of course your opponent has a Zoroark in play which can stand in, then that would get rid of the confusion of the active Pokemon. Then we have the Poliwhirl, the stage 1 evolving from the Poliwag with the finishing blow, again for 0 energy cost. If we have our Politoed in play, we can hit for 50 damage and then 50 more damage if your opponent's active Pokemon already has any damage counters on it. So that's actually 100 damage for no energies, and that is pretty amazing. And then finally we have the stage 2, the Poliwrath for 100 or with 140 HP, and the Steamroll attack hits for 60 as a base for 3 colorless. Again, this attack does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So this is not actually as powerful as the Poliwhirl's attack, because Poliwhirl can hit for 100 as a max, while the Poliwrath only hits for 60 plus 30 is 90 as the max, and we do have to put the 30 on a Pokemon on the bench. But this sniping can be very important because we can put 30 on the bench somewhere, and if that Pokemon is then promoted into the active spot, we can hit that Pokemon with our Poliwhirl for 100 damage or even 120 if we have a Muscle Band attached. We do run, or Davidov does run, 4 Muscle Bands in his deck list to increase the attack cost here from 50 to 70, or from 100 to 120, or also from 60 to 80, and that's it, because the 30 here does not benefit from a Muscle Band. So 4 Muscle Bands, and we also have 2 Float Stones to retreat between our Pokemon, make it easier to switch between our Pokemon here, simply because our Pokemon do have a very high retreat cost, 3 energies, and we do not run any energies in this deck to retreat our Pokemon, so we need to rely on Float Stones or on the switch here, one switch to switch between our Pokemon and 1 escape rope to switch between our Pokemon as well. We also have 1 AZ. AZ can help us to pick up our Shaymin. But if for some reason we have used all of our Float Stones, all of our switches and all of our escape ropes, and my opponent Lysandres our Politoed in the active spot, we can use the AZ to AZ up the Politoed. We will then have to evolve back into the Politoed somehow, but at least we have that option here to use an AZ if we run out of our other switching options, and we can reuse that AZ with our VS Seeker for VS Seekers to use the AZ. Then we also have 2 Archies, Ace in Hole, to make it easier for us to get out our stage 2s. With the Archie, we can Archie the Politoed or the Poliwrath on our bench immediately without having to go through the Poliwhirls. I do want to mention here, maybe that's not clear, but both Poliwrath and Politoed evolve from the same Pokemon. They evolve from Poliwhirl. So if we have 4 Poliwag in play, we will need to keep one of them to evolve into our Politoed, unless we Archie the Politoed into play. Seeing as though we need to evolve both the Politoed and the Poliwrath from the Poliwag, the same Pokemon, one of the most important things to do in nearly every single game is getting out the Poliwag at the start, getting out as many of those little Poliwags as you can. Because we only have 4 in a deck, that is not very easy, so we need lots of Pokemon search cards. We have 1 Brigette to look for our Poliwags, we have 4 Ultra Balls to do the same, although these Ultra Balls, we also need to use them to look for our Shaymin, 2 Shaymin for setup to draw through our deck, and also sometimes to look for our Poliwraths or our Politoads. And then we have 4 Dive Balls in addition to the 4 Ultra Balls to look for our Poliwags as well, and for our other water Pokemon like the Poliwhirl. So lots of Pokemon search cards, but it is definitely necessary. Then we have some draw support besides the Shaymin. We have 2 N and 4 Sycamore, pretty standard, I would say. There is 8 draw cards besides the Pokemon search cards, which is pretty good for any deck out there, I would say. We have 1 Lysandre to Lysandre our opponent's Shaymin and other Pokemon, which if we could, we might want to try to get a Pokemon stuck in the active spot from our opponent, because we can then use our Poliwrath to snipe on the bench here using this steamroll attack, put 30 on the bench while we put 60 on the active Pokemon, and when my opponent finally manages to switch into a bench Pokemon, we can then hopefully knock out that bench Pokemon because we put 30 damage on it for a couple of turns. Then we have 1 teammates, Davidoff runs 1 teammates in this deck to get or to look for maybe a Rare Candy and a Poliwrath. When another Poliwrath got knocked out or something, we can then use our teammates Rare Candy into a new fresh Poliwrath from a Poliwag. If we have a free Poliwag on our bench, make sure we can keep attacking here. If we cannot, that's not a problem, we still have the Spiral Current attack to stall. So 2 Rare Candies to evolve into our Politoads and our Poliwraths a little bit easier, just like the Archies makes that easier for us as well. So we have a little bit of flexibility here with this deck to get out our Poliwraths and our Politoads. Then he does run some healing cards, 4 Max Potions to heal off the damage from the Poliwrath and possibly also the Politoed. If my opponent Lysandre it out, we can Max Potion the damage off if my opponent did not hit for the 1-hit KO, because that's a big if. Lots of Pokemon can actually 1-hit KO this Poliwrath, but if they cannot, we can Max Potion it off, because we don't care about the effect of the Max Potion, which makes us discard all energy attached to that Pokemon, simply because we do not run any energies, so we don't need to worry about that. Let's see, what else do we have left here? We have the Stadium of Choice, which is Rough Seas, 3 Rough Seas to heal up our Pokemon in addition to the Max Potions. We have 1 Town Map to look for our Poliwags. If one is prized, what we are going to do is we are going to grab that Poliwag, snatch it from the prizes if we can take a prize, just to make sure we have another Poliwag in our deck. Then we also have some Sacred Ash to shuffle back our Pokemon, 2 Sacred Ash actually, and that is very important. It is a very good choice of Davidoff to include 2 Sacred Ash. I have found myself using these Sacred Ash over and over and over during testing, and I really like the inclusion of the 2 copies, because we need to shuffle back our Poliwags as much as we can into our deck when they got knocked out. And I think that is about it for the deck analysis here. We do have 2 Battle Compressors to help us thin out our deck a little bit and to help us get draw supporters in our discard pile, so we can VS Seeker for the draw supporters, but that is pretty standard for the modern decks, for the decks that are very popular in the current format. This is not a very popular deck in the current format, let's be honest here. This is just a for fun deck. It's by no means competitive, but it does use the Battle Compressor, which I think should be actually a staple in plenty of decks out there, because it is such a good card in combination with the VS Seeker. And that is it, we are going to end the deck analysis right here, and we are going to dive into the versus ladder with this deck list of Davidoff to see how it can perform in the current meta, if we can get any wins at all with this for fun deck, this Rogue Poliwrath Politoed deck. Alright, leave a like if you enjoy Davidoff's deck list and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more fantastic deck lists. Yes, I know, it is a silly pun, but it makes me giggle, so I guess I'll take it. Alright, I'll see you in the battles in a moment. Actually, before we start the battles, I quickly want to take 20 seconds to give you a heads up for this week's Fun Friday episode, where I'm going to be playing around with Politoed and Poliwrath as well, so don't be surprised if you see a similar thumbnail. However, the deck that I will be featuring is going to be different from this deck. It's going to be my own build, my own take on Politoed and Poliwrath, and actually the strategy is going to be quite different as well, because I am going to be including another Pokemon in this deck. but you will see the familiar faces of Politoed, Poliwrath, so there's that. Alright, it is time to battle. Our first opponent of the day is Lucky underscore 612 with I'm sorry about that, I blew into the microphone with oh, I lost my train of thought now. Let's think back. A colorless and a grass deck. Alright, yes, a grass deck because well, not because, but that is bad for us because we are grass weak. So alright, we do start off with the Shaymin and Dive Ball for a Poliwhirl. Yeah, this is pretty bad for us. I'm not sure how that is going to go, because I think it will be good if we can get 1 KO. If we can get 1 KO, we will be happy here. 1 KO with our deck, because my opponent is going to one-hit KO ourselves, or our grass Pokemon, our water Pokemon. We see an end from our opponent. We find a Poliwrath, or Poliwag, Poliwag, not a Poliwrath, Poliwag, and an Ultra Ball for another Poliwag, as well as a Max Potion, which is completely useless for us right now. We see the Servine, we could get paralyzed. Tails, we don't get paralyzed. Alright, we can put a Float Stone on a Shaymin if we want to Devolution Spray. It's going to paralyze us again. Really wants to hit that paralysis for some reason, even though the Miltank cannot one-hit KO our Shaymin. And we cannot, he cannot attack me in our first turn, or in this first turn either, so I'm not sure if my opponent should have gone for that Devolution Spray straight away. We will bench our Poliwag. I kind of want to get off an Archie, but I don't think we will be able to. I'm going to discard the Max Potion. It's going to be completely useless because we are going to get one-hit KO'd. And we are going to grab another Poliwag. It's all about getting out the Poliwags right now. We need as many of them as we can find. And maybe we can even Spiral Current my opponent, confuse my opponent here. Brigette is good, but... well, actually, oh, if only we had... let's see here, we are going to discard a Politoed and we are going to try to Archie in the next turn. Yes, that's going to be our play. Hopefully we top deck something useful, because this is a risky play here for me. Let's discard the Politoed and the Brigette. Oh no, we cannot Archie in the next turn. Well, actually, unless we grab a Poliwrath. Yes, and then we can Rare Candy in the next turn. That would be fantastic. Alright, let's go for this here. Things are looking up. Let's attach the muscle bands to our Poliwag and let's end our turn. See what our opponent does. We are actually going to pull off an Archie. I didn't think I was going to be able to say that during my recording session, because I never managed to do it during the testing here with this deck from our good old I have forgotten the name. Oh, Davidoff, that's it, Davidoff. We see, oh my goodness, an N. Our hopes and our dreams down the drain. Are you freaking kidding me? We had the perfect hand and then my opponent decides to end. Well, our Shaymin will go down here. Or not. My opponent forgot to use the Ariados. Well, that's fine by me. I'm not complaining. Let's put a Float Stone on our Shaymin. Let's see here. If we are lucky, we can find maybe another Archie. I'm going to grab myself a Poliwag, discard the Switch, and the Via Seeker. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's discard the Via Seeker and the Sycamore instead. Because then, if we find an Archie, we can use it. Poliwhirl. Let's get out the Poliwhirl. Freaking opponent here. Ruining our hopes and our dreams. Let's put a Muscle Band on the Poliwag and let's draw into 5 more cards with our Shaymin. Can we find another Poliwag? There's the Archie. Oh my goodness. Have you got it? Have you got the Archie? Please. Escape Rope, Switch. Alright, let's Escape Rope first of all. We will promote our Shaymin. No, our Poliwag. Let's promote our Poliwag. Yes, let's promote our Poliwag. Our opponent promotes the Serperior. We can hit for 70 against the Serperior. Alrighty. Let's see here. Let's use our town map. This is exciting. Let's grab another Poliwag. Oh my goodness, we are going to pull it off. I cannot believe this. Let's grab another Poliwag here. And then let's switch into this Poliwag right here. We are going to switch. No, maybe not. Actually, yeah, might as well. I want to preserve my Poliwhirl. Let's switch into the other Poliwag. And let's battle compress. A Lysandre. Another Archie and an AZ. Alrighty, and now we have it. We actually pull off the Archie still. We actually still pull it off. We get the Politoed. We get a Floatstone, another Dive Ball. I will get out another Poliwag, another Poliwhirl, another Poliwag. I'm going to mess up these names here. I'm sorry. I'm going to mess them up constantly. Then we could Floatstone. We could Floatstone here. We could Floatstone our Poliwag and hit for 70. But I actually just want to hit for the confusion here. And hopefully my opponent will hit himself in confusion. And that's what I'm hoping for here. In a turn after that, we can hit for 120 for the knockout on this Serperior. That was my plan here. That was the only plan I had. And I think it's the better plan than going for 70 with the Poliwhirl, because now we have a chance of our Poliwag staying alive, rather than if we hit for 70 with the Poliwhirl, our Poliwhirl would have gone down if my opponent would have found an energy. So this is pretty amazing. Even if we lose, this game was just amazing. I'm still not expecting to win, but this is just fantastic. This is one of the best setups I've had with this deck so far. And Battle Compressor from my opponent. Does my opponent have any energies in hand or a draw supporter? Well, let's hope my opponent misses out on an energy. And then we can get a free KO here with our Poliwhirl. A free KO, can you believe it, on a Serperior deck. Discards another N, Teammates, and another Devolution Spray. I'm not sure why my opponent did that. Why did he discard another N as well? I'm not sure about the reasoning there. VS Seeker for the N, alright, but he could already have VS Seeker for the other Ns. So we see the N is trying to find those energies. We get our Poliwrath, another Poliwag. If this Poliwag goes down, we will bench this Poliwag. And we have some Sacred Ash as well. We see the Snivy, another Serperior. Do we maybe see another Servine? An energy. Oh my goodness, we get the free KO here. Or we can, or let's see here. We can Lysandre the other Serperior. Hold on. We can Lysandre the other Serperior. Let's heal off our Shaymin. Might as well heal off our Shaymin here, because we don't have any other use for the Max Potions. Hold on here, hold our horses. We can Lysandre the other Serperior. Confuse that, and that way we have two Serperiors that we can knock out with our Poliwhirl there. And yes, we are going to go for that. Let's Lysandre the other Serperior. And a victory! Oh! A victory! A victory! What the heck? Davidoff, if you're watching this, man, this is insane. Your deck just got a super unexpected win. I cannot believe that. It was a super short match, I know, and we didn't even see any knockouts, but despite that, I'm definitely going to include that in my recording. That is just insane. That was just fantastic. Let's take a look at the stats. 20 damage dealt versus 100. Poliwag, Poliwag MVP against Miltank. Your boy Poliwag, ladies and gentlemen. That is Fantastic. Alright, let's find ourselves another opponent, I guess. Another opponent. Kirby98X is going to be our next opponent with a Darkness, a Colorless, and a Psychic Energy. I'm not expecting to set up nearly as well as I did last game. Not expecting that. But if we can, oh, don't mind. I will take it. I will take all the luck I can get here. Grab it and hold it dearly as if it is my dearest possession. And there's another Shaymin star, but we know from last game that doesn't mean anything. And this hand is that actually the same hand as the last game? Hold on here. Hold our horses. That looks so similar. That's creepy. That looks so similar. Because I'm pretty sure we discarded a Max Potion in our Serperior game, as well as a Rough Seas. I don't remember, but it looks very similar. Alright, let's draw into a couple more cards. We are up against Trevenant. It does start off with a Shaymin, which increases our chances of not getting item locked straight away, and we need that. We need to prevent that item lock. Luckily, we have our Rough Seas to counter my opponent's Silent Fear, so there's that. What? Discards 2 breaks. Alright, alright. Don't mind if I do. If we can set up, we stand a really good chance against this deck. But there's the big if there. If we can set up, that is the big if. And that is not at all sure here. If my opponent goes for the N, we won't see an item lock, and yes, he does go for the N. A little bit unfortunate, because we had a pretty good hand there, but I'm happy to see those Rough Seas get shuffled back in my deck, and this is a nasty hand. I don't like this hand at all. We see a Headringer on my Shaymin as well, so we cannot retreat that Shaymin with our Float Stones. We need our AZ to pick up the Shaymin now. We need our AZ. There's a Wally for the next turn. We could, well, we cannot Shaymin loop because we don't have energies to Sky Return. Never mind there. Never mind what I was going to say. Discards a Hammer. That's good, because the Hammers are useless against our deck. Would love to see a nice setup here, but it doesn't look like we will see a nice setup from us. We did see a setup there from my opponents, but I believe we are in a little bit of a bad spot at the moment, since we don't have any draw sports. Poliwag, not really what I wanted to top deck. At least we have our Rough Seas here, so we can heal off damage from our Poliwags. Might as well attach my muscle bands and use my battle compressor while I can. We will compress some things here. The Brigets, no need for the Brigets. One Archie. And then probably some item cards, because we are going to get item locked. Item locked big time. Maybe actually let's keep those cards in my deck, because they are supporters. We shall discard some item cards. Float Stones. No need for them. What else? What else? Max Potions. No need for those. Actually, I will discard the Max Potions instead of Float Stones. Where have they gone? Alright, so we don't draw into those. And we will end our turn. Hang on to our Rough Seas here. We need to hang on to that. So, there's an energy on the Shaymin. Now we will see the item lock here with the Phantom. We will see the Ascension for the item lock. And that means right now we are in a very, very bad spot. We didn't set up whatsoever. There was no setup to be seen here with our deck, so we have to pounce the turn, and this is probably going to be a nasty loss against the deck, which is actually surprisingly a pretty good matchup for us if we can set up. It's actually pretty surprising a good matchup, simply because we play Rough Seas, simply because of that. Silent Fear, alright, there we go. The Silent Fears have started. And because we can deal quite a bit of damage as well, there's a Sycamore Fan-tastic right in time. I will have to discard my Poliwrath and my Politoed though. And that's slightly annoying, and we cannot shuffle them back at the moment because we are item locked unless we find Hexmaniac. But I don't think I play Hexmaniac. Yeah, I don't think this deck plays Hexmaniac. We get a Rare Candy, completely useless. At least we have a Brigette. We can Brigette for more Poliwags. More possible prizes for my opponent to take. Or we can simply Sycamore. We can simply Sycamore, because that Archie is never going to be useful. Or we can hold on to our hand until we can use our teammates. Silent Fear discarded our stadium. We need to Sycamore. We need to find our stadium. We need to find our stadium. There's a Poliwhirl. Alrighty, a Poliwhirl. Can we find another Poliwhirl? That's all I'm looking for. Poliwhirl or a stadium. Yeah, baby. We get our Poliwhirl and a Sycamore for another turn, so we can find our Rough Seas in the next turn. Prevent a KO on our Poliwhirls, unless we somehow see a Lysandre, and we might even find a Politoed. We might even find a Politoed and a Poliwrath. There's a Trevenant. Silent Fear, alrighty. That's okay. Dive Ball, not useful, so we will continue our Sycamores here. Poliwag and a Rough Seas, fantastic. Alright, we don't get the Politoads though, so let's end our turn. Two Dimension Valleys in a discard pile. We will lose the Stadium War, I think, unless my opponent plays 3 Dimension Valleys only, then we will win it. Let's hope we get another turn of healing up, that's all I'm asking for, and we do get another turn of healing up. We also get another Poliwag. Do I Sycamore or do I end? If I Sycamore, I bring myself down to 9 cards. That is very dangerous. That is very, very dangerous. So I'm going to end, despite giving my opponent a chance here at finding a Dimension Valley. I think we need to end. Yes. Alright. And we even have the AZ for the next turn, so we can start evolving into our Politoed. That is what we wanted to see here. Let's evolve into our Politoed. And let's end our turn. This hand is fantastic, and we can start hitting for 70 damage against this Trevenant BREAK. And then in the next turn, 120. That's a KO on a Trevenant BREAK. Trader's Mail from my opponents. Does he play Bursting Balloons? If it does, this Trevenant BREAK cannot use it. I don't know why my opponent attached that weakness policy. Because we are a water deck. Why would he attach a weakness policy? He's looking for the Dimension Valley. Zero Sick could discard our Muscle Bands, so we hit only for 50. And a red card, never mind. There goes our AZ. There goes our AZ. There's another Phantom. And a Super Rod. So now we need to wait for our AZ again. Shuffles back the Trevenant BREAKs. Shuffles back the Trevenant BREAKs. Via Seeker for an N for the next turn. Or no, for this turn. Alright, so we do get ends. I'm not sure why my opponent used his red card then. That seems like a bit of an odd play. And there's our AZ again, so we get it back. That red card was didn't do anything actually, didn't do anything. We can Lysandre as well, Lysandre around the... Oh, and there's the Dimension Valley. Now we need to find our Rough Seas again. Our last Rough Seas, if it is even in the deck. If it is even in the deck. Here my opponent takes 2 prizes. This Poliwag might go down as well, unless we find another Poliwhirl. Do we have another Poliwhirl somewhere? We probably do. So let's promote this Poliwhirl. Do we go for the Lysandre? We hit for 70 on that Phantom. Yes. Let's Lysandre Phantom. Let's knock out the Phantom. And then let's Dive Ball. Alright, let's Dive Ball for Poliwhirl. We don't have another Poliwag, so this Poliwag is going... we don't have another Poliwhirl. And I meant to say Poliwrath, this Poliwag is going to go down in the next turn. We'll put 60, 80 actually on the Phantom. Yes, 80 on the Phantom and 30 on the Trevenant BREAK on the bench. Might as well attach this Muscle Band to my Poliwhirl. And we could actually Archie in the next turn if we discard our AZ. But then we are vulnerable to a Lysandre from our opponents. We are vulnerable to a Lysandre. That's a bummer. That's a bummer. Do I take the gamble? Do I discard my AZ here? So I can Archie another Poliwhirl. Poliwrath. I guess I could. I'll put a Floatstone on my... never mind, now I cannot Ultra Ball, so it has been decided. I needed a Floatstone though on a Politoed, make sure we can retreat the Politoed if we see a Lysandre, because all of our other Pokemon can attack. Steamroll it is for 90 and 30 there on the Trevenant BREAK. It would have been interesting to use our Poliwag to try to confuse my opponent's Trevenant BREAK. That would have been interesting, but alas, our Shaymin was stuck in the active spot. There we get a Via Seeker, which we cannot use because we will get item locked again by the Trevenant BREAK. We do need to deal with only 2 Trevenant BREAKs at the moment. Only 2 Trevenant BREAKs. Promotes the other Trevenant BREAK, so we can put 30 on the Trevenant BREAK on the bench again, or maybe even on the Phantom. And we'll see a Silent Fear. It is about high time that we find our other Rough Seas though. We need our other Rough Seas. An Ultra Ball, discarding... that's Team Fragrance. Alright, maybe I should have gone for the Archie's Ace in Hole. I probably should have actually. Another N. Never mind, we actually get Ns. That is good. Another N. Town Map. And no Rough Seas. Maybe our Rough Seas is prized after all. And that is probably GG then, if our Rough Seas is prized. Because we will be left with our Poliwrath and our Politoed only for the rest of this game. And it looks like it might be prized, honestly. Let's hit for 30 on the Phantom. We are going to try to knock out that Phantom and take another prize. Maybe if we get lucky, we can find our Rough Seas. If we get lucky. Would have loved to gotten the V-Seeker more early on, so we could have V-Seekered our Lysandre back from the discard pile while we still had our item cards. And there is a Trevenant. Never mind, my opponent evolved into the Trevenant, but should not be able to find another Trevenant break for a while. I think 3 slam, 60. Yeah, this is going to be it. This is going to be GG, simply because we couldn't win the Stadium War against my opponents. Yes, alright, it is GG. We will take the knockout on this Trevenant break. But that is it. 2 prizes for us and the win for my opponents. What can we get? A Sacred Ash. Not even our Stadium, so it doesn't matter after all. Alrighty, a loss in this game. But I'm already happy with taking a win against the Serperior deck. And there's our Rough Seas actually. Actually, our Rough Seas was in our deck. We were just very unlucky. We couldn't find our Rough Seas. We were just too unlucky. I am not going to bother benching that Rough Seas. I'm just going to end my turn and give my opponent the KO here. There's no point. We got it a turn too late. A turn too late. It was close there. It was close for sure. If only we can dream. But that is all we can do here. Alright, let's find ourselves another opponent then. Pedro PNC, or no, Pedro NPCS with a fighting and a colorless deck is going to be our opponents. This time no item lock or no weakness. This time more of a more common match. A match where we should have an average chance if we can set up, I guess, although fighting next.
Karp, 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 Karp.